welcome in our good friend Lloyd Vance, covers the NFL, as he always joins us on a Tuesday during the NFL season at 5:15. Vance's View, my friend, how are you?
Good, good. You got to hang in there. Freddie Kitchens is on the way.
It's horrible, man. I don't want to spend – I want to go around the league as we typically do and start to look at some of these games, but, like, when is enough enough? And I don't want to come off as though it's like a whining, complaining, but, like, seriously, why can't the ownership, why can't the Maras understand, or John Mara in this regard, that old school way of thinking, it doesn't work? You know, talent to me trumps loyalty, and I think they've been way too loyal with some of these players. They were way too loyal with Garrett, and who knows, they might be too loyal with a guy in Joe Judge. I just, eventually you just got to rip it off, man, and I don't think I can stomach another 3 to 5 years of bad football.
Yeah, Q, it's looking like it's a tear-down situation in the New York Giants, unfortunately. We always talk about they're one of the cornerstone franchises of the league, and they're just in total disarray, and you know, this is just the first of probably many moves. Garrett was not getting the job done. 18.9 points per game, and the team just seemed didn't seem on the same page with Daniel Jones. And, you know, they made the move, and where they are right now is 3-7. Obviously, they're going to try to play spoiler, but, you know, if it was my franchise, I'd try to get them as high as draft pick as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't want players getting hurt, but you have a sense that players are already going to start to make business decisions. I mean, look what the Jets are doing. Again, what's the point of throwing Flacco out there last week? It just makes he's beyond a bridge. He is done. He is shot. He's not even a backup quarterback in this league anymore. So instead of throwing Mike White out there, okay, fine, Wilson's hurt. I get it. You throw Mike White out there, and then if Wilson comes back, which he is, you throw him out there the rest of the way to see what you have. Like, it made absolutely no sense. It's almost like malpractice what the Jets are doing. You have to see what this kid has, but yet to throw Flacco out there, you really going to tell me that Flacco gives you a better chance of winning a football game than Mike White?
They're the same at this point in their career, and you know, the Jets are another franchise. They need to be looking at the future. Obviously, they have the Jamal Adams pick coming over from Seattle.
Yep.
So they're going to have some opportunities to do some things. And, you know, we're not sure who Wilson is at this point, but I'd like to see more of him with that offense. And Elijah Moore is an exciting player. You saw that big play that he had down the field. So they have a few pieces there, but they have a lot of building as well to do.
Yeah, the top 5 right now would go to the Lions, the Jets, Houston, Jacksonville, and the Giants via Chicago. The Giants would also get the 6th pick. So have fun screwing that up, whoever the GM is. They would get the 5th and the 6th pick. Atlanta 7, the Eagles 8 via Miami, the Jets 9 via Seattle, and then Washington football team that's sitting at 4 and 6 right now, top 10. You know, that's a nice win if you think about it by Washington, right? I mean, I don't know what they're thinking down there in D.C. when it comes to the quarterback, but again, I'll say this, man, he's got a little gumption too, and Washington's sitting at 4 and 6. They're in the mix. They had that 4-game losing streak, but they beat Tampa. They went on the road and beat Carolina. You got a wounded Seattle team. You go on the road to the Raiders. They can turn around and be right in the mix with 2 or 3 more wins here, sitting at 6 and 6.
They definitely are a contender for that 6th or 7th spot right now, as well as the Eagles. And these last couple weeks are going to shake things out with all these divisional games. But you're right, Taylor Heineke coming there, very efficient at the quarterback position. They have Gibson, McLaren making plays, and that defense really showed you something, stepping it up without Chase Young. So it was a tough game against Carolina, and they made the plays when they had to, and you know, it was a good quality win for them. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to see, as you said, Seattle at the Raiders, and then Dallas at Philadelphia. So they got some big games coming up, and maybe they can compete in this division.
Yeah, and then look, the Philadelphia Eagles have been running the football really well. The offensive line is holding up. You don't need Jalen Hurts to make a ton of throws. You know, I'm looking at this game on Sunday, and we'll get to in a couple moments, where they should have a relatively easy time with the Giants. And, you know, the reason I bring it up is you look at their scheduling, like they don't even have to get on a plane. And you know this from covering the league. Creatures, you know, these players are creatures of habit, man. So Eagles got to go up and down 95, and then they close the season out against the Dallas Cowboys. they got a bunch of winnable games. 9 wins might get you a wild card spot.
It's just surprising where we are, and the Eagles have turned around Nick Sirianni. You know, I guess the plant reference is kind of the plant is growing.
You're right.
So,
you're right.
It's a situation. You're right, Q. They are running the football. Jalen Hurts, that is what he does best, and obviously making timely throws to Devontae Smith and Goddard, the tight end. But they're doing a good job of that big offensive line behind Jordan Mailata and the rest of those guys running down the hill. So they've had 200 yards rushing their last 3 games, 240, I believe, this week. And you're right. I heard you before I came on. The Saints, you know, that was their calling card, stopping the run, and they just ran it down their throat. And, you know, they're going to do what it takes to win games. It may not be pretty, but they have these running backs rolling, and they're on a 2-game winning streak. So this is a spot going to New York to play the Giants and then play the Jets. They got to make sure there's no letdowns, because we've seen it over and over again where teams look past somebody and then they're looking at that big L.
How about their former quarterback in Carson Wentz? When they were sitting the Colts at 1-4, and I remember they lost that game on the road to Ravens, you and I were like, their season's done. Now all of a sudden they've reeled off, 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6 or 6-5. They're coming off a game on the road, mind you, on the road against arguably one of the better teams in the AFC, and they ran the ball down the Buffalo Bills' throats, man. Taylor, 32 carries, $185, 4 touchdowns. You didn't need Carson Wentz to go back there and throw it 35 times. Efficient, 50%, a touchdown, doesn't turn the ball over. How about what the Colts are doing right now in Indianapolis, sitting at 6-5?
Yeah, the Colts are a very dangerous team, and you talk about Jonathan Taylor and the numbers there. You know, he's a guy that's an MVP candidate, leading the NFL in rushing with 1,122 yards right now. So he's a guy that they can put him on his back, and then they can play behind that defense with Darius Leonard and the rest of those guys. So Indy is a team that's jumped back in a race. You know, Tennessee, ever since Derrick Henry's been out, they've kind of limping home. Indianapolis, we're going to find out who they are. They do play Tampa Bay this week at home. Then they're at Houston, who they can't look past. They have a bye. And then New England, which is a playoff-type special. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Colts keep it going. But I think eventually Wentz is going to have to make some more throws, because he threw for less than 150 yards in this game. But there's going to be a point where they need him.
Yeah, I think like a $105 with a touchdown, 11 of 20, whatever, was 50%. You mentioned Tennessee. I mean, look, imagine now if they don't lose to the Jets, right? Now you're 9-2, really different than 8-3 coming off a bad loss against the Texans, because there's only a couple games that separate them in Indianapolis. They will see the Colts, I think, the next time. I think they're done with the Colts. So they've got – actually, they won – I just want to pull it up real quick. So they actually won the season series again. They swept the Colts, which gives them the leg up. But you mentioned kind of limping. Is that game against the Texans just like a stub in the toe? Because now they got to go on the road against a pretty good Pats team right now. Your cause for concern with Tennessee is all right, they'll be fine and win a division, but without Henry, they're not going to make a deep run in the playoffs.
It's going to be tough without Henry, and then they had A.J. Brown out, the rib injury. Julio's been banged up all season. They just don't know if they're going to get anything from him. And they won a lot of games very closely, and you know how quickly things can turn in NFL. So it's a situation where they're going to keep churning it out there, see if they can get something from Adrian Peterson and the rest of these guys. Their defense is still timely in getting turnovers, but you're right. At New England, it's going to be a huge test this week. Then they have their bye, Jacksonville, and then at Pittsburgh. So we're going to see these contenders kind of step up and the pretenders kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah, I thought it was a very impressive performance by the quarterbacks, some quarterbacks, this weekend. And look, you already know my thoughts on Herbert. I mean, that to me, you look at these games and it was a crazy game, very entertaining game, Sunday Night Football. But, this is a kid that, look, they've had gunslingers in their franchise history. The Luckmans, the Foutses, the Rivers, obviously. Now, all of a sudden, you look at Justin Herbert, 30 of 41, 382, 3 touchdowns. He's doing it with his legs as well. He had close to 400 all-purpose yards, if you really add everything in there. Over 400, I should say. Man, I'll tell you, I think this Chargers team, if they can tighten up that defense a little bit, I think they're about to go on a run here.
And they've compiled a lot of good talent on that roster. A.J. Smith, their GM, has done a great job and bringing guys in. So they need to get these guys healthy. And you're right, Q. If they just learn to finish games, because they always seem to find a way to lose tight games early in the season and chasing their tail at the end. So, with Herbert, a guy who threw for 372 yards, 90 yards rushing this week, he just showed you what a playmaker he is. And then that big throw to Mike Williams down the stretch to win the game for him. So he's a gamer, and we're going to see if they can really step it up. And they're fighting for that last spot out there, but maybe they can catch KC. They're in that second seed spot right now in the AFC West. So it's going to be fun to watch the Chargers. They are a good young team, and you like to see Derwin James, the rest of those guys step on to the defensive side.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. I don't know what I was thinking of Luckman with the Chargers. I was throwing out Breeze early in his career. I was tweeting at someone the other about 5 minutes ago over Herbert. So, we got to make that connection. And also John Haden was a good quarterback as well. But my point is, they got guys that can sling the football. I probably the Bears wish Luckman was still alive. They can throw him out there. That's just I don't even know what to make of that franchise. I mean, you've talked about it now for the past year plus that head coach and that GM should be on the hot seat, and rightfully so. There's the report coming out now that Matt Nagy will coach on Thanksgiving, but then he'll be fired. Like, why are you even putting that out there?
Yeah, Q, and we talked about in our season preview the coaches on the hot seat, and Nagy firmly was on that list. Yes, they thought he bought some time with going 8-8 and making the playoffs last year, but that team's in total disarray, and it wouldn't surprise me if that report is correct. They're going to try out Andy Dalton, see what they can do against the 0-9-1 Lions, but let's face it, the Bears are a team that they caught lightning in a bottle a couple of years ago, and they just have not stepped forward ever since there. That Khalil Mack trade has not worked out for them, and they're just a team that maybe need to tear everything down with Ryan Pace going as well. So, it's ugly. Maybe Bill Lazor can step in and give them something as the interim coach, but we'll see. They got to play on Thanksgiving, and that's going to be the first ugly game of the holiday.
Yeah, I mean, think about this, right? I got to sit there. I got to go through the Bears and Lions, which is a disaster. The Raiders are probably going to get smoked on the road against Dallas. They should have made Dallas and the Eagles, to be honest with you. And then you get the Bears and the Saints. I mean, explain to me. You're giving Tyson Hill all this potential money, and yet he's DNP against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's another team that I think at the end of the day is going to be looking for a quarterback. There's probably going to be about 5 or 6 teams in the NFL that are going to be looking for quarterbacks. The Saints might be one of them. The Bears are going to be one of them. The Lions might be one of them. The Giants might be one of them. Cincinnati, depending upon what happens with Big Ben. Carolina, Miami. I mean, who else can you think of? The Jets, who knows, right?
Yeah, and it could be Cleveland, too.
Cleveland, absolutely.
Baker Mayfield's a guy, I can see it right now. Drew Barry, their general manager, and the rest of them guys are not believing in him. So, he could be a guy that's on the market as well. And Russell Wilson, I think, is going to be in play this offseason. I just don't see this thing with Pete Carroll working out, and something is amiss there. And with Paul Allen dying, their owner, they're a rudderless team, and they've given Carroll all this power, but Wilson and him just are not clicking anymore.
No, I think he's definitely going to be in play, especially with a team that's obviously quarterback needy with a lot of draft capital. All right, before we start to look at these games, game ball and Lackey for the weekend.
Yeah, game ball, we talked about him earlier. You got it. There were a couple choices. Chris Jones had a great week for the Chiefs with 3.5 sacks, but I went with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was just incredible running downhill. 5 total touchdowns in the game. You can't forget about that one receiving. And, he's just looking at that bell cow guy that can carry a team into the playoffs and maybe do some damage.
Lackey?
The Lackey, you got to go with Ryan Tannehill. We talked about the Titans, and, you lose to the Houston Texans at home, and he was just awful in the game. He had 4 interceptions, couldn't drive his team down the field, just turnover after turnover, punts and 4th down non-conversions. It was just an ugly loss for them, and you start wondering, are they a paper champion? So I'll give it to Ryan Tannehill.
Listen, that loss of Henry it's monumental, man. It's monumental. By the way, I'm surprised, and real quick before we get to these games, has anyone, I mentioned the effect that Patterson has had with Atlanta, right, offense. Has anyone kind of stopped and gone to Arizona and see how well James Conner is playing for the Cardinals this year. Now, I know the average is right around 4, but he scored 12 touchdowns already. Like, he's been a huge boost to that offense.
Yeah, another guy who could get that comeback player of the year award. And, you know, when he was at Pittsburgh, he was not catching the ball. He was fumbling. He was always hurt. And he seemed to found the fountain of youth out there in Arizona, and they really need him. And let's face it, Colt McCoy goes 2-1 for them, and they stole some games. So Arizona right now at 9-2, you have to say they're the best team out there.
Yeah, listen, I love what the Cardinals are doing. Took a flyer on them prior to the season. All right, so we mentioned some of those Thanksgiving Day games. You got the Raiders now going all the way out to Dallas. I'm not too focused on the Bears and Lions. That's going to be, if anything, you probably play the under in that one. It's going to be no scoring. But how about Dallas, right? Every time we watch Dallas, they're somewhat of an enigma. They lose to the Broncos, they wax the Falcons, and then in a game that their offense really looked horrible, they only put up 9 against Kansas City. Now, is that more of a product of Kansas City, or are you concerned with the Cowboys' offense and you think they'll be able to generate some against the Raiders on Thursday?
Yeah, I think it's more Kansas City stepping forward. 4 straight wins for them, and they seem to be fixing that defense under Steve Spagnuolo. So they had 12 quarterback hits on Dak, and they sacked him 5 times. He was not comfortable in the pocket. The key thing for this Thanksgiving game is Tyron Smith, I believe, is going to play for them at left tackle, and they like to run behind him, and then he does a great job protecting his quarterback. So I think Dallas will win this game. You know, they like to put up points once they get a lead, and the Raiders are just limping into there. Lost 3 straight games, and they're another team that looks like they're falling by the wayside after a hot start.
Hey, look, the Saints are hosting Buffalo. Buffalo is showing you right now they are a beatable team. Saints are at home. They're getting 5.5. I think that number's going to close right around 5, to be quite honest with you. I would still take a flyer on the home team, maybe play the total over 45. But this is a huge game for both teams because they have playoff implications.
It is, Q. And you know, last week they both had kicker problems. So, you know, I think it's going to be a tight game, probably a 3-point win or so for Buffalo. But Buffalo, when I look at them, they're just not running the ball with any effectiveness. They're putting too much on Josh Allen's shoulders. And you know, Diggs can only make so many plays out there. So, you know, it's a situation where they're getting the Saints team that's very beat up. We'll see if Kamara can play in this one. But I think Buffalo needs to gain more, and they're going to find a way to win it. But it's going to be close.
Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Cincinnati 6-4, 2-2 at home. They'll host the Steelers, laying 4.5. Total number is 45. Now, you know, quietly Burrow has really put together a nice season. I mean, he's coming off that injury. You give him a couple weapons. Chase is just a beach, but he's already thrown 21 touchdowns. All right, the picks, you like to see him kind of maybe cool off on that. He's going to throw for well over 3,300 yards. I do like Cincinnati at home in this spot.
Yeah, Q, I definitely like them here, and I like the over as well. The Steelers, you know, they just allow too many big plays, and with Jamar Chase, the way he's playing, Burrow is going to get him the football. Don't forget about the Joe Mixon. He's running the ball very efficiently, and then that defense led by Hendrickson and Hubbard on the defensive line, they can get after people. So the Steelers, we'll see if Minka Fitzpatrick can play. If he's not playing, they're in a lot of trouble. He's their playmaker back there. T.J. Watt, he's also banged up. We'll see if he plays in this game. But I would have to agree with you that Cincinnati should win this one.
Yeah, listen, it's all about getting hot at the right time. Interesting 1 o'clock window matchup, Tampa Bay and the Colts. We mentioned the Colts running the football. Tampa Bay could have put up 50 last night against that Giant defense. I mean, the last night, you know, you never want teams to get right against you, but Tampa Bay got right against the Giants last night. Now they go on the road. They are a 3-point favorite. I look at games like this, and I always have to look at the quarterback play. I would lean towards Tampa Bay on the road against the Colts.
I would too. And then, you know, everybody's worried about that upset since Week 9. There's been 11 games where a team below 500 has beat a higher-seeded team. So this is the opportunity for the Bucs to kind of buck that trend and make sure they're coming at them. But Vita Vea is going to be the key here, nose tackle. He's been banged up with a knee injury, but I think he's going to play in this game. And he's going to be the key to stopping Jonathan Taylor. We talked about Taylor earlier. That they need to put the pressure on Carson Wentz and make him try to win the game, but he'll turn that football over to Devin White and the rest of those guys on the defense. So I think Brady makes the big plays, and Tampa Bay covers that number.
Talk about public perception and recency bias since the Pats have won 5 straight and Tennessee, stubbing their toe. Patriots are laying 6.5 at home against the Titans. I mean, it tells you if Henry's playing, this is probably, and Tannehill's not turning the ball over, this is probably a pick'em, maybe the Titans by 1 or 2, but it's recency bias geared towards New England. At home, they don't have the best home record, but as I mentioned, 5 straight. They're doing it on both sides of the football. This would probably be my look but don't touch game because it's not going to shock me if the Titans cover, let alone win outright.
Yeah, Q, if you're going to play, I would say take the Titans in those points. The Patriots will probably win in a very close game, but you talk about Tennessee, they're going to have to make some plays. And New England's kind of turned a corner with Jeff Judon and the rest of those guys. Judon's got 10.5 sacks, a guy that's getting after the quarterback, and Tennessee's having problems running the football, and they're going to put all the onus on Tannehill. So I think New England's kind of turned a corner, and they could end up being the AFC's number 1 seed right now.
And a couple housekeeping real quick. Week 13, Seahawks are flexed out of that game against the Niners. NBC is now going to kick up Denver and Kansas City. Seattle will be on that CBS spot, 125, or I should say 105. Also, Pats and Colts game 15 will now be played Saturday, December 18th at 8:20. That'll be broadcast on the NFL Network. So this is what happened. We get, we're starting to see these games flexed. I can tell you they can flex the Giants and keep them at 1 o'clock for all I care about. They've got the Eagles. Not a shock. Eagles are laying 3.5 on the road, which always feels like another home game for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think the Giants are a bad football team, and the Eagles are getting hot at the right time. And the one thing the Giants potentially have going for them is their run defense, but look, their offense stinks. It really does. I mean, I love the Eagles in this spot, and it pains me to say that.
Yeah, that line's very close, so the Eagles are going to have to make sure they don't come in there too confident. And then Saquon's kind of getting back, and they know the Eagles are kind of vulnerable across the middle with their linebackers and covers. So Giants, maybe they hit Ingram, Saquon over the middle, but I tend to agree with you. I think the Eagles will get some turnovers. We see Slay making all these big plays in their defensive secondary. So I think the Eagles, if they aren't too overconfident, they will cover that number, and you'll see Jalen Hurts put up about 3 total touchdowns in that game.
I would just blitz Daniel Jones. I would blitz him on every down, every play, because there's no threat. Saquon, they're better off running Booker. Like, this is what I don't understand, the management of players coming off injuries. Saquon is not 100%. He looks like a shell of himself. So if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't even have to stack the box and dare you to try to throw. I can either lay back or just rush with 3 like Tampa Bay did. Lloyd, their offensive line is so bad, the Giants. Again, I hate saying this. I can see Daniel Jones getting sacked 4, 5, 6 times on Sunday. If I'm the Eagles, I just basically blitz, and blitz.
Yeah, Sweat and the rest of those guys are going to try to get after him. And that game was an ugly watch at the end. The Giants just couldn't do anything. And you're right, Saquon just does not have the burst. He's good at catching the ball out of the backfield, but in terms of just straight-up running the ball, Booker does look better. And they're a team in total disarray. And if they keep getting buried, they're going to have to make a big change this offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 in the 4 o'clock window. We can get to Chargers laying 2.5 on the road against Denver. Denver might be another team looking for a quarterback. They had that 3-0 start. They fell by the wayside, having dropped 5 out of their last 7 to get to 5-5. Total number is 47.5. I'm just riding the hot hand, man, and it's got to be Justin Herbert right now. I like the Chargers in this spot.
I do, too. And when you look at Denver, Teddy Bridgewater is just not driving the football down the field with any authority, and Joey Bosa is going to be getting after him, and Teddy's going to probably make some mistakes. So if you take away all that underneath stuff and their running game with Gordon and the other back, Chargers should be good. So they're trying to improve that defense, and then they're going to probably make some big plays down the field that we talked about earlier, Herbert and Williams and Keenan Allen. So they have those playmakers. And Austin Eckler should probably have a good game, too. So I expect the Chargers to cover that number.
Rams and the Packers. Rodgers says that toe is a little more banged up than he's leading on to be. Didn't seem to affect him too much in the loss against Minnesota. But right now, this is essentially a pick-em game. And, man, I might go to the window as soon as the show is over, because I think this will close Green Bay laying 1 to 2.
Yeah, This is going to be a fun one to watch. I definitely like that over in this game, too. It could be a shootout. Of course, you got to watch the weather in Green Bay. It's probably going to be cold there, but they showed against Minnesota they can drive the football down the field. You get that big play to MBS, and Devontae Adams having a big season as well, and they have A.J. Dillon running the ball now for them instead of Jones. So, Aaron Rodgers looking to make some big plays, but on the other side, the Rams, this is a prove-it game for them. Matthew Stafford's going to have to play a lot better than he did last week, and we'll see if they're able to get Odell Beckham involved as well. So it should be a fun game to watch, but I think Green Bay probably will win in a very close one.
47.5, that's a low total for those two teams. You mentioned the weather's probably going to be an issue. Green Bay's 4-0 at home. They put up 35 against the Lions, 27 against the Steelers, 24 against Washington, 17. So you figure if they're good for 21-24, the Rams would probably have to score, obviously, 24-27 to win it. That's why I kind of lean with you. I like the total in that one as well. Let me see. I don't like that game. That Monday night game stinks, by the way. Let's close with the Vikings in San Francisco. Because I don't think I like this game. This is a big game for both these teams, and I like Kirk Cousins is playing well.
He is, and Justin Jefferson's playing just as well as any receiver in the league. Right now, he's getting 150 yards teams every week. He had 2 touchdowns last week and making those big plays. Adam Thielen, a kind of unsung guy, as well as Dalvin Cook. So, I'd like the Vikings. They're playing some very close games, but then the Niners really are coming on strong. They've won 2 straight games, and with their version of Bosa, they're also able to get after quarterback, and it's going to be a fun game to watch as well. I think that probably Minnesota, they're so back and forth. I think this week probably that the Niners will win this game. So it's going to be a fun watch, though. But I think Niners and Jimmy G has that resurgence with Debo. So it's going to be fun to watch game.
All right, make sure you wear some loose-fitting clothing on Thursday. You got the sweats on, which means you'll probably eat a little early, take a little napsy, maybe wake up around 4-ish for that CBS game, and then hopefully, what is that makes everyone sleepy in the turkey? What is it, trypto whatever?
Yeah, tryptophan, and, there's going to be macaroni and cheese and all the other good fixings in my team.
You're gonna have to walk it off on Friday, right?
Yeah, me and the dog will take a long walk, try to loosen some of that up.
There you go. All right, pal. Enjoy your Thanksgiving to you and your family. We will talk next week. Be safe.
All right. Same to you and yours. Talk to you later.
All right, you got it. My guy, Lloyd Vance. Great stuff as always. Quick timeout.